We Jamaicans are full of sayings and metaphors. For example, when he said to me, when we were writing I Shot the Sheriff, and he said, no, just, I want something for the Jamaicans. No, let's get out, so come up with something for the Jamaicans. I could just immediately say, well, if you shot the guy and he's been bothering you all this time, well, the thing is, every day bucket I go, well, one day the butter must drop out. Well, it's just a Jamaican thing. We say that all the time. It means, you know, every day you're messing with me, one day you're going to get it.
Every day the bucket goes to the well. I mean, one day the butter will drop out. And I say, one day the butter will drop out. And so I shot the sheriff. Lord, I didn't shoot the deputy. It was I who shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot no deputy.
With the departure of Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer in 1973, Rita Marley had formed the I3 backing group. They supported Bob on stage as he aimed his message, cloaked in proverbs, at politicians who ruled through physical violence.
Then all of a sudden I saw Sheriff John Brown.
He could not be just a singer. I mean, even looking at him when he's singing, he's fighting a war, but it's one that it was not obvious, because he speaks about spiritual wickedness in high and low places where you don't see everything that's wrong, but it's there. And so Bob felt he had to fight this. So, yes, he could be a most dangerous man. He could be on the most wanted list.
By the mid-70s, the streets of Kingston reflected all the anger and discontent of the Jamaican people. Their politicians had failed to deliver the promised fruits of independence, and Bob Marley expressed his people's frustration at street level.
Never make a politician.
I believe that politics wasn't number one for him, but it was number one for him to make an explanation to people who didn't understand what was going on politically. To all the people, all the ghetto people from Trenchtown and Rum Lane and Matches Lane. These people who believed in him, he could explain it to them better than any politician could. What was going on politically, economically, and culturally.
The belly full, but we're hungry. A hungry mob is a hungry mob. A rain a fall, but the tub. A pot of cook, but the food and I rock on the top. To jam music, we chuck it. Hey, we chuck it. To jam music, we chuck it.
There's a lot of folks in Jamaica who can't read. So therefore, there's got to be some message sent to people that can understand what's going on in the government and what's happening on the land, and he was the one chosen to do that.
When I stand up and I see the youth fighting against the youth for the politicians, then I really feel sick, and it's just because they keep the youth hungry and them can't get no job, and the people who control the jobs are politicians. So you find, you know, politics is just a trick.
Jamaican politics had become polarized between two warring parties, and each had gunmen to protect their own territories. The government was led by the late Michael Manley, whose march towards socialism alarmed his American neighbors. They feared he was leading Jamaica towards Castro and communism. But Manley and his aides recognized how useful reggae music could be in winning the Jamaican people to their cause.
I think the politicians used reggae. Reggae, especially through people like Bob Marley, express the wishes and the sentiments of the people. The protest came through music and through the song. And they said what they disagreed with and what they agreed with. And so you could find out really how the people were thinking by what songs they sang. It was one way by which you could gauge the people.
You can't get a bar of soap to buy for bathing, or you can't get detergent to buy for washing.
In opposition was the Jamaica Labour Party, led by the right-wing, pro-American Edward Seaga.
In many places you can't get flowers to buy.
There's no question about the fact that music is intertwined with politics. Every public meeting begins and ends with music, and music is interspersed right throughout. And the songs reflect what happenings are taking place in political life. You wouldn't be able to separate politics and music in terms of the extent to which they're interwoven as a form of message.
Both parties were using reggae to sell their policies, and both were anxious to conscript Bob Marley. He had the street credibility they lacked. But Bob wanted nothing to do with party politics in his songs.
Yes, it is necessary to understand the lyrics. You see, the music say, death to black and white oppressors, to all oppressors. You know, we deal with human beings, we deal with the purpose why God created man in the first place.
Build your penitentiary. Rebuild your schools. The brainwash education is trying to make us your fools.
In the mid-70s, Kingston was divided into political territories controlled by warlords. Many believed the CIA was supporting the right-wing Edward Seaga with money, guns and propaganda to bring down the so-called communist government.
They associate with communists, they work like communists, they think like communists, and they do the things that communists do. And as far as we are concerned, we know that they are a communist government hiding behind the fact of some other pretty name.
We knew that the violence that came up during those years, and I was in a position very close to see it, was something which was not entirely local. We traced it down to the CIA in many ways. I remember, I think it was around 75. Kissinger himself personally complained that we were carrying on an anti-American campaign, an anti-CIA campaign from our platform. And he named Michael Manley and named me as having said things about America's interference and against the CIA. And he said, Dudley, you take it from me, I know of no CIA at all operating in Jamaica.
I believe the CIA was using the Jamaican Labour Party as its instrument in the entire campaign against the Michael Manley government. I'd say most of the violence was coming from the Jamaica Labour Party side, and behind them was the CIA in terms of getting the weapons in and getting the money in with all the propaganda guidance, because there was a steady stream, a continuous campaign of propaganda against the Manley government. The weapons, there was no problem with getting weapons in, because the ganja smuggling was a perfect route for bringing weapons back into Jamaica from the United States.
While local politicians benefited from outside assistance, Bob Marley condemned them in his songs.
The CIA would look upon the radical political content of reggae music as dangerous, because it would help to create a consciousness among poor people, among the great majority of Jamaicans. And of course, naturally, the climate was created for an attempt on Bob Marley's life.
Bob was inviting further trouble when he agreed with the government's request to front a free concert called Smile Jamaica. While Marley dreamed of uniting his people with music, the politicians planned to use Bob as their pawn and manipulate the Wailers to support new elections.
The Wailers were a force to deal with, The Wheelers were the voice of the people. The Wheelers were the eyes and the ears of the people. So these politicians wanted to get mileage. So in order to get the youths and the people's attention, they used the Wheelers. That's all it was. Bobby's a musician who wants to play for the people. But these guys try to see if they can get their thing going, and they're not worried about how dangerous that is going to be for Bob.